Hello, West Covina Christian Church. I'm excited to come to you today with this video devotional. It's kind of an introduction to the sermon series that we're going to be starting this Sunday. We just finished an excellent study on the Gospel of Luke, and now we are going to enter into a new sermon series that we have called Overcomer. And I think with everything going on in our lives and in society, the topics that we're going to be hitting on in this sermon series are going to feel extremely relevant. In fact, I hope that you find it to be really helpful in your life. The subtitle of the series kind of sums it all up. We're talking about living with strength and peace during turbulent times. That's the title. Overcomer, living with strength and peace during turbulent times. Man, doesn't that sound like what we need right now? We are definitely in turbulent times. And we need God's strength and His peace. I sat down earlier this week to watch a basketball game, and I was a little bit disappointed because there was no game. There is so much social unrest in our society right now. Many people are seeking in their own unique ways to take a stand for the social injustices that we are experiencing. And it caught my attention that there was a theme song. It wasn't called a theme song. It was kind of a theme song for the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. And the lyrics are super simple. But it came to mind because it has the word overcome in it. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. And I got thinking about that song, and I'll be honest, I laid awake in bed for a while last night because I just couldn't get to sleep. There are some things that are happening all around us that seem to be so disturbing. First of all, I get disturbed and distressed by the fact that we continue to wrestle with some of the same issues in our country. Year after year, even generation after generation. I just talked about the civil rights movements of the 1950s and 60s, and we're still talking about some of the same issues. Now, surely things are improving, but isn't it sad? Aren't we all disturbed by the fact that we are still talking about these things? That there are still people that sense that they feel unloved or mistreated. I don't care where you come at this politically, like that breaks our hearts. And the second thing that really disturbs me is that the things that we are experiencing right now, so many of those that are at the forefront promoting the conversation seem to completely be leaving God out of the conversation. They're approaching the issues just with the thought, we're going to deal with this in our own strength and our own understanding. Every social movement throughout history, in America or around the world, has had a religious component. Any movement in society that doesn't implore God's help always turns ugly, and it doesn't ultimately bring about any change. And so that disturbs my heart, what we see right now. And so that's why I feel like this series is so relevant. Because we're seeking to bring in God's help, God's strength, God's peace to help us during these turbulent times. Now we're going to talk about all sorts of issues. This isn't really a social justice series. We're going to really start with the issues within our own hearts. Because each of us need to seek to have God's strength and God's peace in our own lives if we are to be overcomers. Let me leave you with one verse in this video devotional. In fact, it's not really one verse, it's 7 verses, but the verse is repeated over and over again in Revelation 2 and 3. There's 7 letters to 7 churches in these 2 chapters, Revelation 2 and 3, and each one closes in a similar way. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who overcomes, There's that word. To the one who overcomes, I will give the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. That's the promise that's given to the church in Ephesus. To another church, the promise is to the one who overcomes, they will not be hurt by the second death. To another, the promise is that they will have authority over the nations. To another, the promise is that they will sit with God on his throne for all eternity. But what I want to leave with you this morning is that there are so many promises to those of us who overcome. Not in our own strength, not in our own wisdom, but with the help of God. So what we might be missing in society, we're going to draw upon as believers in West Covina Christian Church. We're going to seek to live with God's strength and God's peace during these turbulent times. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be exciting. And I can't wait to jump into it. I'll see you at 10:30 Sunday morning, and we'll get into how we can be overcomers through Jesus Christ. Have a good rest of your week.